Hi, welcome to Crafting with Kathy with a Christmas theme. Today's card I've called Christmas Picnic because we're creating a gingham type look and a patchwork look with that, but the gingham look makes me think of the picnic rug that you take out over the picnic basket, you know, the tablecloth, you know. So I've called it Christmas Picnic anyway. So the stamps that we're going to use is our stripe stamp to create the gingham look, and then the Christmas stamps that we're using is the Sketch Holly and the Script Season's Greetings, which is a nice small one that'll fit in on the small panel that we're trying to create with it. The inks that we're going to use, we've got our Versamark for doing some embossing. We've got some VersaFine, and I've chosen Olympia Green there. And then some Catherine Pooler colours, Rocking Red and Grass Skirt. Now, why I've chosen two different types of inks, we're going to be doing some watercolouring on the holly. So I've picked the VersaFine to stamp the holly with because it will dry waterproof and won't smudge. The Grass Skirt and the Rocking Red in the Catherine Pooler range are actually water reactive. So we can stamp with these, but we can also then watercolour with them, so we're matching the stamped area to the watercoloured area. So this is why it shows why sometimes you choose a waterproof one, sometimes you choose a water reactive one, because you can work them together. Okay, so the card we're making is going to be a little bit like this. So you can see what I mean about the picnic tablecloth. So we're creating just this lovely patchwork look. Okay, so let's get started. So what I've done is I've actually die cut some shapes already, and including our little panel that we're going to stamp and emboss on. And then I've already pre-cut a few bits, but I'm going to show you how we make the background for the gingham look. So I'll just grab my scratch paper, and we've got a bit of cotton blend cardstock here, just working on the 210 GSM. I don't need the extra thick today. So with our stripe stamp, I'm going to ink up with the Rocking Red ink pad. Now, Catherine Pooler ink pads are beautifully inky, but they're very, very squishy. So don't ever press them into your stamp or get your stamp and press it into the ink pad. You'll just end up with ink all on that backing area, and it can stain there, which makes it harder to see where you're placing your stamp. I'm trying to show you something and then realising that was flaring lights straight at the camera. Okay, so yeah, too much, it wastes your ink, it makes it messy, it can make your image blurry. So what we want to do when we're applying our inks is just tap across the stamp. We want to tap a few times to make sure we've got really good coverage, but we don't press at all. You don't need the pressure with such a squishy little ink pad. Okay, now we'll stamp that on our card. And I'm just lining up, trying to get the first lot of stripes fairly straight on the card, which will make it easier because we need to stamp repeatedly to build up, to cover that cardstock, so that we can choose where we're going to actually die cut our little layers from. So lots of ink on. Oh, I think I missed a bit on the bottom corner there. And I'll just meet these with the other stripes. So I still have it off the edge a little bit, making sure I'm lining up with all of my other stripes. Press down, nice lot of pressure. And then lift up. Now, if I wanted to, I could also do an extra bit there. I don't need to for what I'm going to die cut out of this one. So I'm just going to now turn the card, ink up our stamp again. So again, I'll do it so that you can see on the camera, just tapping across. So by going at the 90 degrees, I mean, we could make just a candy stripe card that way. Looks pretty cool. You could even, if you're very fancy, get another colour and do another colour in between the stripes. That's pretty fancy, isn't it? Okay, or for the gingham look, we turn our card around. And stamp it again. Now this gingham look works really well also with the Versamagic chalk inks. And if you're looking on our YouTube channel, you'll see a clip there called Gingham Pairs. And that actually uses the chalk inks to create a gingham look, because they actually overlap really well, and you get a really good, you get it a little bit with the Catherine Poolers, but it happens more so with the chalk inks, that where the lines cross over, you get quite a different shade of the ink showing up. So it creates a really good plaid sort of look. But for today, because we're doing Christmas colours, I wanted to go nice and bright. I was really hoping that there's two new Catherine Pooler colours just been released. and I was really hoping I was going to have my stock in time for filming this clip, but not so. So the new colours are Cranberry Fizz and Deck the Halls. So a really good deep cranberry red and a great new deep green. But without those, I've decided that Rocking Red and Grass Skirt are going to give me great bright Christmas colours. We just give our stamp a bit of a clean and wipe it off on the rag that I've got on my lap. Okay, now so with this, to actually do our die cutting, we would then work out what size bits we want, and I'll show you some of the bits that I've already made. So here's one where I've done a green frame and a red, and then I've stuck a cotton blend frame over the top. Here's just a straight green one. So to cut a frame, what I need to do, I'm using the Libby's Cards and Crafts stitched square dies. Now these come in quite a few sizes. If you have them, the two sizes that are next to each other, if you use those, you'll get a very fine border. But if I'm wanting to create a wider border, I can use every second frame and I'll create the wider border like I've got with the green one here. So if I'm going to be doing this on my card, what I'll do is I'll lay my die on, and particularly a design like this where you've got straight lines, I want to make sure that die is lined up with those lines. Then I'll put my next shape in, my next size, make sure that I've got that all nice and even around, and then I use something like masking tape or frog tape just to hold it in place. If you're using masking tape, just de-tack it on your leg a couple of times so that it's not too sticky and doesn't stick to your card. Just making sure I've got those still all lined up really neatly together, very parallel. And I would then place that into my die cutting machine like that, and I know then that my frames are going to stay in position as it goes into the die cutting machine. The number of times I put several things on my card and then I knock them as I put them into the die cutting machine. So this way they're all lined up and slightly stuck to the card, but not enough to actually lift any of the colour off when we bring it out of the die cutting machine. Okay, but we're not going to waste time with doing that now. I've already die cut some, but I just want to show you how to create that frame effect. So now let's actually stamp. So this is where I've die cut with the same frames out of a square out of cotton blend, and we're going to stamp and emboss and colour this, and then we'll start building up all our background. So let's stamp first. Just because I'm going to do the greeting first, because that's with the embossing. I don't want to have anything else wet on the card before I do my embossing. And because I've been handling this a bit to be die cutting it, give it a bit of a swipe with your anti-static pad. And I'll use the Season's Greeting stamp. Now because I'm trying to fit two stamps onto this little square, I'm actually going to make sure that I stamp the Season's Greetings right down in the bottom corner. And I'm also casting a glance around to make sure I've got my embossing powder standing by. And a bit of catching paper. Cool. Okay, so positioning this right down in that bottom corner. You could stamp it straight or on an angle. I'm choosing to go straight with this one today. You could also use your stamping platform or MISTI to make sure you get it stamped straight. Just use your magnets to hold your card down. Or you could deliberately stamp it on an angle, and that way you don't have to be straight. Okay, let's get our gold powder and pop that on. Tap it down. Did I miss a little bit at the edge there? I think I did. So give it a tap, turn it over, give it a good thump on the other side, and then I'm just going to come in and just check that I haven't got any little grains where I don't want them. Excellent. Then all of our excess powder back in the jar. And tuck all that to one side. And let's get it heated. Just warm my heat gun up a little bit first. Gold is such a magic embossing colour. I think it's what gets most of us hooked on stamping, is when we see gold embossing done. And after years of stamping, I'm still not sick of it. And just that magic when it changes. Now just pick it up, make sure that I've got everywhere nicely done. Yep, that all looks good. Don't overheat it, or it will actually flatten back down and you'll lose some of that lovely 3D effect. Now I'll grab my holly leaf stamp and the Spanish olive. No, Olympia green. Sorry. Picked Olympia green because it was the same tonings as the grass skirt, even though it's a deeper shade. But it was the same type of green. So let's stamp this on the top corner, and I can just see where the season's greeting is and just position this so it fits. It's going to go over it a little bit, but I don't want it to go right through the words. I'm just overlapping the S. So by having my stamp above, I could just move it around until I got it positioned where I want it. And there we've got it stamped. So of course the embossing powder will resist that green ink. Let's leave that just for a moment just to heat set. Actually, no, what I'm going to keep doing, we'll do the edge next. So with the Olympia green and a brush, I'm just going to shade around the edge of the card a little bit. So I'm just giving a couple of moments for our VersaFine to dry before we start doing our painting. And I'm also going to do this on our backing card. And on our sample one, I did the outer edges just a little bit, but then I thought if I actually did it a bit more, these white frames would show up against it a bit. So let's do quite a bit of shading on this one. So heavier at the outer edge, and then just keep smushing your brush in. If you're a bit worried about getting lines and stuff, just go with circles. It takes a little bit longer time to, takes a bit more time to build up your colour, but you'll get it more even. Or you can just be lazy and smush. Or we can of course do a bit of both. Circle in to get nice, smooth, soft blended colour, and then smush to get some deeper outer colour. So circles. And then a bit of smushing. So by starting off near the outer edge, particularly when we're going to do the heavier smushing, it means that you can get a little bit of the ink off the brush so that as you're coming into the card, it's naturally going to be blending out easier for you. Sometimes it almost looks like there's actually nothing happening until you step back and look at it and go, oh yeah, we've got some really soft colour happening there. And it's always easier to go back and add a bit more colour than to try and take colour off. Right, that's going to look quite dramatic. Okay, now let's go back to our smaller panel and we'll start doing our watercolouring. Now on the sample one, the first sample one that I did, I've actually watercoloured the berries and the leaves and then put a little bit of glossy accents over the berries. I don't know if Matthew can get a close-up of that so that you can see the shine on the berries. Oh, beautiful. But this time we're going to do a variation, and I'm just going to paint the leaves and then the holly leaves, and then we're going to use liquid pearls to do the berries. So to do my painting, I'm using the same ink pad that we've been stamping with. Put a little bit onto your craft mat or onto an acrylic block, and that becomes your palette. Now because this is a water reactive ink, it means I can watercolour with it. So I've got 2 water brushes on the go. I could use just one, pick up a bit of colour, and then when I'm wanting to blend, just wipe it off on my scrap paper to clean it. Or if I've got 2, it's good to use one to apply colour and one to blend. So I pick up a little bit of green. Think of where I might like the highlights of the holly leaf to be, and I'm thinking this area highlighted. So I'm going to put more colour on the other sides.
So I can pop my colour down and then just use my clean brush just to come in and blend that out a bit. So I can just move the colour around, drag it on more if I want more, or push it out if I want less. Now let's see, that to me looks like the highlighted area there. So if you turn your card around, you can actually get the edge of your brush right up against the edge of the stamped image. And you're less likely to go over the edge. If I was painting this way for that edge, I'm very likely to go over the edge. So turn your card around so that you can butt the edge of the brush right up into the edge of that image. Now this is where I'm going to add a bit of highlight. I'm just making sure my brush is clean. Make sure my colours are blending nicely. Now this little one underneath we'll do quite a little bit deeper because it's shadowed in behind the other leaves. So I'll just turn my card slightly. And that way I'm putting that point of the brush right up against the edge I want to get to. Now because I'm trying to build up colour, I don't want to drag. If I keep dragging the colour along, it'll get lighter as we go. So if I start back down near that edge and drag up till I meet with where I've already put colour, we're going to get the whole lot that little bit deeper. Okay. Now I think we've got all our elements ready. I'll leave the liquid pearls till last, till I've stuck everything down. We just need to let that one look. I'll play with the layout a bit and then we'll stick these ones together. So let's have a look at what we're going to do. So we're going to put this one in the green frame and that's going to go into the middle of our card. Now we could do it on a bit of an angle if you wanted to, and then do some of our other squares straight. We've got this one where I've put lots of bits together. So we could tuck that in under there. It could be going off the edge of the card. But if that's on an angle, maybe this will work better straight. So it's good to just have a little bit of a play around. And see, this is where by darkening that outer card, our little frames are going to show up a bit more. And I might tip that one off the edge that way. I think I might bring this up a little bit. In fact, that might look nice going over the top of that one. That's a different look. And we'll put this one so we're seeing more of the red there. Okay, so to stick these down, we'll look at what's under what. So I'm going to do the bottom layers first. So I've already put my double-sided tape on the back. So we're just going to lift that off. Okay, press that one down. Now we'll leave that one because that one's going to come in over the top of our main frame. Let's do our one down here. Again, I've already popped some tape on the back of it. So we're ready to go. And because this is a little bit bigger one, I've actually put a little bit of tape across the middle of it as well. Okay, so let's tuck this one so we had it on a bit of an angle. So I can move my main piece out of the way now. Let's put this one so we want two edges coming off the card and different amounts of edges coming off the card. So now when we've got something that's overlapping the card like that, we can either pop it into our guillotine or paper trimmer to trim those bits off, or you could use scissors and you just sort of butt the edge of the scissor up against your other card. So you're using that as a guide. And I'm using my non-stick scissors, so if I'm going over any edges that have got a bit of tape on them, the tape will come off the scissors. Okay, so that's a very quick way of just trimming those bits off. Now, when we're putting our tape on, we could tape these bits separately and lay them in, or we could save time by doing them together. So if I just put those down with one sitting inside the other, when I put my tape on, when I find the end of my tape, when I put my tape on, I'm actually going to lay it over where the two bits join. So that way I'm taping, they'll be held in place, and we're taping down both bits at the same time. So it just saves you a little bit of time with something that is a bit of a fiddly card to do. So anywhere you can save a little bit of time is good. So I'm popping the tape down, and then I'm just using the edge of the acrylic block just to pull the tape against, and that flicks it off neatly. And let's again, because we're layering over other things and this is a bigger panel, we'll just put a little bit there in the middle. Okay, let's put this one down. So pick up those bits of tape. Okay, and this was going to go right in the middle. So I'm just looking that I've got my borders fairly even at the sides and at the top and bottom. Or, no, let's bring it up a little bit and have a little bit more red showing. And I'm actually going to offset it off center. I'm just going to trim off that little bit. Now sometimes you get little extra bits with the die when you're die cutting. It's going to show. So let's just move that off centered, but just still making sure we're fairly parallel with our edges, and press down. And our last little bit, I've already popped tape on this one as well. It's going to be a fiddly one though, being a smaller piece. Now if you have a bit of trouble handling a small bit, you can always use your tweezers. And I'm just going to show you, again, this can happen any time you're doing double-sided tape, but particularly on a smaller piece where a little bit of my tape has actually overlapped the end of the card. So before I put it down, I'm just going to roll that back onto the back of the card, so that when I put it down, I haven't got sticky stuff hanging out at the edge that's going to pick up on dirt, etc. Now let's grab that with the tweezers, because by holding it with the tweezers, I can position it around. I don't want it at the same angle as that, I want it at a different angle, and we did want it going slightly off the edge of the card. This is looking great. Let's trim that little bit off the edge there. And we just need to add in our liquid pearls, and we're looking good. So I just always test these out on a little bit of a scrap first, make sure the colour's flowing, and make sure I haven't got any bubbles. It's bigger than our normal little liquid pearls blob, so I'm just going to go around until I've filled it in. So I'm just dabbing it on, and then I'll do a little bit of a circle at the end. Oh, I should say the colour I'm using is Carnation Red. I tested this and felt it was the best match for the Rocking Red ink. So a bit of either a tap or lines, fill it in, and then do a few little circles just to get rid of that tail. Then have a bit of a look and think, does our card need anything else? I could add a little bit of glitter, but I think with all this gingham going on, it's quite a matte sort of look, so I don't think I'm going to add any glitter into that. But I think what might look nice is just some more little spots of pearls around. So let's just add some extra little dots. I want to add a few down this side. A couple here. Oh, when do you stop? When you start doing pearls, it's, yeah, so hard to know when to stop. Okay, so that's our card. How cute's that? So it's showing you different looks with the same technique. So one with doing more shading around, the one with the glossy accents compared with doing with the liquid pearls. Different combinations of frames. So when you're doing this and you make up a couple of backgrounds with your stripe stamp, and then you're die cutting all your bits out of it, you're usually going to die cut enough to actually make a couple of cards, because you'll be using bits of red off one and bits of green off the other. So yeah, this is a really cool technique. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, and then you'll get updates of when we load up new clips. And also, if you go to our Facebook page, you can see lots of different samples that I create when we're exhibiting at shows and when we're doing classes. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.